I am Sarah, 29 years old. For my entire life, my parents told me that family was forever, that no matter what happened, we stick together, that blood never abandons blood. My mother, Linda, always said I was her precious daughter, her only girl after 3 boys. My father, Thomas, called me his princess. But the worst betrayal didn't come from a stranger or a failed relationship. It came from them, from the two people who promised they would always be there for me, especially when things got hard. On Christmas Eve, 3 years ago, I sat at my childhood dining table with my 7-year-old daughter, Emma. The room smelled like roasted turkey and pine from the tree in the corner. Christmas lights twinkled on the mantel. My 3 brothers sat with their wives and children, everyone dressed in holiday sweaters and fake smiles. Emma was wearing the red velvet dress my mother had sent her, the one with the white collar that made her look like a little doll. She was so excited to be at Grandma and Grandpa's house for Christmas. She had made them cards at school, drawn pictures of our family with careful crayon strokes. My mother brought out the turkey and everyone clapped. My father said grace, thanking God for family and blessings. Emma squeezed my hand under the table, her eyes bright with happiness. This was supposed to be healing. This was supposed to be our fresh start. 6 months earlier, I had left my ex-husband, David, after 7 years of marriage. He was abusive, emotionally, financially, and toward the end, physically. The final straw was the night he shoved me into a wall in front of Emma, then told her it was my fault for making him angry. I packed our bags the next morning and moved into a tiny apartment across town. I filed for divorce. I got a restraining order. I did everything right. But doing everything right doesn't mean everything gets easier. I was working 2 jobs, struggling to afford childcare, drowning in legal fees from the custody battle. David was fighting me on everything, dragging the process out, trying to bankrupt me into submission. I had asked my parents for help, not money, just support. Maybe watching Emma a few afternoons a week so I could pick up extra shifts. Maybe a loan for the lawyer, something I could pay back. They said they'd think about it. They said divorce was complicated. They said they needed to stay neutral. As we ate Christmas dinner, my mother kept looking at me with this expression I couldn't quite read. Pity mixed with something else, something harder. My father was quieter than usual, barely making eye contact. My brothers talked loudly about their jobs, their kids' accomplishments, their vacation plans. Nobody asked how Emma and I were doing. Nobody mentioned the divorce. It was like we were ghosts at our own family gathering. Then my father stood up, tapping his wine glass with a fork. Everyone went quiet. "I want to say something before we get to dessert," he announced. "Linda and I have been doing a lot of thinking lately about family, about values, about what we want our legacy to be." He looked directly at me. "Sarah, we love you. We always will. But we can't support the choices you've been making. Divorce is not something this family believes in. Marriage is sacred. You took vows before God and you broke them." I felt my blood go cold. Emma was sitting right there, hearing every word. "Dad, this isn't the time." "It is the time," my mother interrupted, standing beside him. "We've tried to be patient with you. We've tried to be understanding, but you've put us in an impossible position. David has been calling us. He's devastated. He says you won't let him see Emma. He says you're turning her against him." "He has supervised visitation because he's dangerous," I said, my voice shaking. "The court determined that. I have a restraining order." "You got a restraining order against your husband because he got upset one time," my father said dismissively. "Marriage is hard, Sarah. You don't run away the first time things get difficult. You work through it. You honor your commitment." My oldest brother, Michael, shifted uncomfortably. His wife was staring at her plate. Nobody was defending me. "What are you saying?" I asked, quietly. My mother's expression hardened. "We're saying that if you won't reconcile with David, if you won't honor your marriage vows, then we can't have you in this family. We've raised you with certain values, and you're spitting in the face of everything we taught you."
Emma was looking up at me, confused, scared. She didn't understand what was happening. "Mom, Dad, please, can we talk about this privately?" "No," my father said firmly. "Everyone here needs to understand where we stand. This family believes in marriage. We believe in forgiveness. We believe in working things out. If you can't do that, if you insist on this divorce, then you're choosing to walk away from us." "I'm not walking away from you," I said, my voice breaking. "I'm protecting my daughter from an abusive man." "Alleged abuse," my mother corrected. "David says he never touched you. He says you're making it up to win the custody battle. And frankly, Sarah, you've always been dramatic, always played the victim. We don't know what to believe anymore." The room was spinning. My brothers were silent. Their wives were silent. Their children, Emma's cousins, were staring with wide eyes. "So what are you saying?" I asked again. "What exactly are you telling me?" My father took a breath. Then he said the words that would split my life into before and after. "We're saying that you need to leave, tonight, you and Emma, and until you reconcile with your husband and honor your marriage, you are not welcome in this house. You are not part of this family." Emma started crying. "Grandma, why are you being mean to my mommy?" My mother looked at Emma with an expression that might have been regret if I didn't know her better. "Sweetheart, your mommy made some bad choices. Sometimes when people make bad choices, there are consequences. We're not being mean, we're teaching her a lesson." "Emma is 7 years old," I said, my voice rising. "You're doing this in front of her, on Christmas Eve. You're telling your granddaughter that she's not welcome in your home because I left an abusive marriage? We're telling you both that choices have consequences. Now please, gather your things and go. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." They had no idea that the woman they were throwing out into the cold with a crying 7-year-old would spend the next 3 years building something they could never touch. They had no idea that their rejection would be the thing that finally broke me free from caring what they thought. They had no idea that Emma would grow up to be extraordinary, not because of them, but in spite of them. And they had no idea that the day would come when they would beg to be let back into our lives, and I would have to decide whether to be merciful or to give them exactly what they gave us. I stood up, took Emma's hand, and walked out of that house into the December cold. Emma was still wearing her red velvet dress. I didn't even have our coats. My mother called after us, "Sarah, wait!" But my father stopped her. "Let her go. She'll come back when she's ready to apologize." I never looked back. I never apologized. And 3 years later, they would learn exactly what they lost that Christmas Eve.
The air outside was freezing, maybe 20 degrees. Emma was shaking in her thin dress, and I was in a blouse and slacks. No jacket, no coat, nothing. My car was parked on the street. I unlocked it with trembling fingers and turned on the heat, cranking it as high as it would go. Emma was crying in the back seat, confused and hurt. "Mommy, why did Grandma and Grandpa kick us out? What did we do wrong?" I turned around to look at her, this little girl who had already been through so much. "Baby, we didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes grown-ups make really bad decisions, but I promise you, we're going to be okay." "But it's Christmas Eve," she sobbed. "Santa won't know where to find us. We don't have our presents. We don't have our coats." I felt rage building in my chest, hot and consuming, but I couldn't show it to Emma. I had to be strong for her. "Santa will find us," I promised. "Santa always knows where good kids are, and we'll get our coats tomorrow. Tonight, we're gonna go home, make hot chocolate, and watch Christmas movies. How does that sound?" She nodded, still crying but trying to be brave. As I drove away from my parents' house, I looked in the rearview mirror. They were all still inside. The Christmas lights were still twinkling in the windows. My family was still gathered around that table, probably relieved that the uncomfortable confrontation was over, already moving on to dessert. I drove to our apartment, a 1-bedroom in a not great neighborhood. It was all I could afford on my receptionist salary from the dental office and my weekend shifts at the grocery store. Emma slept in the bedroom. I slept on the couch. We had a small artificial tree that I'd bought at a thrift store, decorated with homemade ornaments Emma had crafted from construction paper and glitter. Our presents to each other sat underneath, things I'd bought on clearance and wrapped carefully. A doll for Emma, some books, warm socks. Nothing extravagant, but wrapped with love. We went inside and I made hot chocolate while Emma changed into her pajamas. We sat on the couch together, wrapped in blankets, watching the Polar Express on our old laptop. Emma fell asleep halfway through, her head on my shoulder. I held her and cried silently, trying not to shake and wake her up. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael, my oldest brother. That was really messed up. I'm sorry. That was it. Sorry. Not, are you okay? Not, can I help? Not, I'm coming over. Just, sorry. I didn't respond. At midnight, Christmas Day, I was still awake, staring at the ceiling, Emma asleep in my arms. My phone buzzed again. My mother. Sarah, you're being unreasonable. Dad and I are willing to let you come back tomorrow if you apologize and promise to consider reconciliation with David. But you need to think about what you're doing to this family. You're tearing us apart. I read the message 3 times. Then I blocked her number. Then I blocked my father's. Then I blocked all 3 of my brothers. Every single one of them had sat there and watched it happen. Every single one of them had chosen my abuser over me. The next morning, Christmas Day, Emma woke up excited despite everything. "Mommy, Santa came!" She ran to the tree, found her presents, and tore into them with pure joy. She didn't have many, but she cherished each one. I made us pancakes for breakfast, using the last of our groceries. We spent the day playing with her new doll, reading her new books, being together. That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat down at our tiny kitchen table and made a list, a plan. I was going to survive this. More than survive. I was going to build a life so good, so stable, so full of love that Emma would never remember this Christmas as the worst day of her life. She would remember it as the day everything changed for the better. First, I needed better income. My 2 jobs were barely covering rent and food. I needed a career, not just jobs. I researched online certification programs I could afford. Medical coding. It paid well, could be done remotely, and only required a 6-month certification program. I could study at night after Emma went to sleep. I enrolled the next day, putting the $1,200 tuition on a credit card I couldn't afford but had no choice about. Second, I needed reliable childcare. I reached out to a single mom I'd met at Emma's school, another woman struggling alone. We made a deal. We'd trade childcare on alternating evenings. She'd watch Emma 2 nights a week so I could work extra shifts. I'd watch her son 2 nights a week so she could do the same. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. Third, I needed the divorce finalized. David was dragging it out, trying to exhaust my resources. I couldn't afford my lawyer anymore, so I filed to represent myself. I spent hours at the library researching family law, learning how to file motions and represent myself in court. It was terrifying, but I had no other option. Fourth, and most important, I needed to protect Emma from this trauma. I found a free counseling program through her school for children of divorce. Emma started seeing a therapist once a week, a kind woman named Dr. Morrison who specialized in helping kids process family conflict. Over the next 6 months, I worked like I had never worked before. I went to my dental receptionist job. I went to my grocery store shifts on weekends. I studied medical coding at night, sometimes until 2 a.m. I represented myself in divorce court, filing motions and showing up to hearings with shaking hands and highlighted law books. I took Emma to therapy every week. I made sure she had breakfast every morning and dinner every night, even when that meant I ate ramen so she could have real food. I lost weight. I stopped sleeping more than 4 or 5 hours a night. I developed an eye twitch from stress and exhaustion. But I kept going, because every night when I tucked Emma into bed, she would say, "Mommy, I'm so glad we're together, just us," and that made everything worth it. My parents never called. My brothers never reached out. They posted happy family photos on social media without me and Emma in them. It was like we had been erased, like we never existed. But I didn't care anymore, or at least I told myself I didn't. I was too busy surviving to think about them. 6 months after that Christmas, I passed my medical coding certification exam. I got a job at a hospital making $45,000 a year, nearly double what I'd been making before. It was enough to move us to a better apartment, a 2-bedroom where Emma had her own room. It was enough to afford a reliable car instead of my dying Honda. It was enough to stop living paycheck to paycheck and start actually saving. 8 months after that Christmas, my divorce was finalized. The judge granted me full physical custody with supervised visitation for David after reviewing the evidence of abuse. David had to complete anger management and parenting classes before he could even have supervised visits. He stopped showing up after the 3rd one, stopped calling, stopped paying child support. He just disappeared from our lives entirely, which was the best gift he could have given us. Emma thrived. She made the honor roll, she joined the school choir, she made friends, she smiled again, really smiled, not the scared, uncertain smile she'd had when we were still living in fear of David. 1 year after that Christmas, I got promoted at work. I was now a coding specialist supervisor, making $62,000 a year. I could afford to take Emma on a real vacation. We went to the beach for a week, just the 2 of us, and built sandcastles and collected seashells and laughed until our stomachs hurt. 2 years after that Christmas, I bought a house, a small 3-bedroom in a safe neighborhood with good schools. It had a backyard where Emma could play and a porch where I could drink coffee in the mornings. It was ours, actually ours. No landlord, no month-to-month lease. Ours. Emma cried when I told her, "Mommy, we have our own house? Really?" "Really, baby. We did it." That Christmas, 2 years after my parents threw us out, Emma and I decorated our house with lights and put up a real tree. We invited our friends, the people who had actually been there for us, the single mom whose son I'd watched and who had watched Emma, Dr. Morrison from the school counseling program, my coworkers from the hospital who had covered for me when Emma was sick, our neighbors who had welcomed us to the street. We had a party filled with laughter and love and people who chose to be family even though we weren't related by blood. Emma was 9 now, confident and happy. As we stood on our porch looking at our decorated house, she said, "Mom, this is the best Christmas ever." I hugged her tight. "It really is, baby." My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then I did. "Hello?" "Sarah, it's Michael." My brother. I hadn't spoken to him in 2 years. "What do you want, Michael?" "I need to talk to you about Mom and Dad. It's important. Can we meet?"
My mind drifted back to 20 years earlier. I was 9 years old, the same age Emma was now. It was the summer before 4th grade and my family was at the lake house my parents rented every August. The house smelled like sunscreen and lake water, the sound of boats and laughter filling the warm days. My 3 brothers, Michael, David, and Ryan, were teenagers then, 17, 15, and 13. They spent their days water skiing and flirting with girls at the marina. I spent my days trying to keep up with them, desperate for their attention and approval. My father was always working, even on vacation. He was a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, constantly on his phone, taking calls, missing family dinners to handle emergencies. My mother filled the gaps, organizing activities, making meals, keeping everyone happy. She was the glue that held everything together, or so everyone said. This particular summer afternoon, my parents had gathered all of us on the deck for what they called a family meeting. We sat around the picnic table, the sun setting over the water, mosquitoes buzzing around the citronella candles. "We have exciting news," my father announced. "We're taking Michael on a college tour next month. Harvard, Yale, Princeton, the Ivy League schools." Michael beamed. He was the golden child, the straight-A student, the athlete, the one destined for greatness. My parents had been planning his future since birth. "That's so cool," David said. "I want to go to Yale too when I graduate." "We'll take you on your tour when the time comes," my mother promised. "Everyone gets their turn." Then my father pulled out 4 envelopes, one for each of us kids. "We've also been saving for your college funds. We wanted to show you what's in there so you can plan for your futures." He handed each of us an envelope. Michael opened his first. His eyes went wide. "Whoa, $150,000. That's amazing. Thank you." David opened his. $100,000. Yes, that'll cover everything. Ryan opened his. $80,000. Sweet. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I opened mine slowly. Inside was a statement showing $15,000. $15,000. Not $150,000. Not $100,000. Not even $80,000. $15,000. Everyone was celebrating, talking about their futures, making plans. I stared at the number, my vision blurring. "Dad," I said quietly, "why is mine so much less?" The table went quiet. My father looked at me with an expression I'd seen before, but never understood until that moment. Disappointment mixed with something like dismissal. "Sarah, honey, you're a girl. You'll probably get married and have kids. You don't need as much as your brothers. They're going to be the breadwinners of their families. They need strong educations. You can go to community college, get your MRS degree, and your husband will take care of you." "What's an MRS degree?" I asked. "It means finding a husband, sweetheart," my mother explained, like she was telling me something wonderful. "That's what girls do. You'll go to college, meet a nice boy, get married, have babies. You won't need a big career, so we're investing more in your brothers' educations because they'll need it more." I looked at my brothers. Michael was already looking at his phone. David was talking about fraternity life. Ryan was asking if he could use some of his money to buy a new car for college. Nobody was acknowledging that I had just been told I was worth 1/10 of what they were. "But I want to be a doctor," I said, my voice small. "I want to go to a good school too." My father laughed, actually laughed. "A doctor? Sarah, you're sweet, but medical school is incredibly hard and expensive. Let's be realistic about your abilities, okay? You're a B student. Your brothers are A students. You're just not built for that kind of academic rigor. And besides, female doctors have to choose between their careers and their families. It's not a good path for a woman who wants a normal life."
"Thomas, maybe we should," my mother started. "Linda, we've talked about this," my father interrupted. "We have limited resources. We're making smart investments in our children's futures. Sarah will be fine. She's pretty. She's sweet. She'll find a good husband who will take care of her. She doesn't need medical school." I stood up from the table. "Can I be excused?" "Of course, honey," my mother said. "Don't be upset. You'll understand when you're older." I walked down to the dock and sat at the edge, my feet dangling over the water. The sun was fully set now, stars starting to appear. I held the envelope with my $15,000 college fund and compared it to the numbers in my head. Michael had 10 times more than me. David had almost 7 times more. Ryan had more than 5 times more. Because I was a girl. Because I would probably just get married. Because I wasn't smart enough for medical school anyway. I felt something crack inside me that day, a realization that I hadn't wanted to see before. My parents didn't see me the same way they saw my brothers. My brothers were investments. I was an expense. They were futures. I was a placeholder until I became someone else's responsibility. I went to the bathroom in the lake house and locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror. 9 years old, sunburned, tears on my cheeks. "You're going to prove them wrong," I whispered. "You're going to show them you're just as smart as your brothers, smarter even." But then a worse thought crept in. What if they're right? What if you're not smart enough? What if you really are just supposed to get married and have babies and let someone else take care of you? I went back to the deck. My family was making s'mores, laughing, planning Michael's college tours. Nobody asked if I was okay. Nobody acknowledged what had just happened. It was like the conversation had already been forgotten by everyone except me. That night, I lay in my bed in the lake house and made a decision. I would be what they expected. I would stop trying to compete with my brothers academically. I would focus on cheerleading and prom committee instead of honors classes. I went to community college like they suggested, studying liberal arts with no real goal. I met David when I was 21. He was handsome, charming, had a good job in sales. He said he wanted to take care of me. He said I could be a stay-at-home mom. He said I wouldn't have to worry about money or career or any of it. My parents loved him. My father called him son before we were even engaged. My mother planned our wedding like it was her own dream come true. "See," she said to me during the dress fitting, "we told you this would happen. You found a wonderful man. You're going to have a beautiful life. Aren't you glad you didn't waste time on medical school?" I smiled and nodded, because by then I had convinced myself they were right, that David was my future and my purpose, that being a wife and mother was all I needed to be. I had buried the 9-year-old girl who wanted to be a doctor so deep that I could pretend she never existed. I married David 3 months after my college graduation, got pregnant with Emma 6 months after that, became a stay-at-home mom just like my parents had planned, became financially dependent on David just like they've said I would be, became trapped just like they never warned me about. When David's mask started slipping, when the charm turned to criticism, when the criticism turned to control, when the control turned to violence, I had nowhere to go. No career, no money of my own, no independence, just $15,000 worth of community college and a lot of regret. My parents prepared me perfectly for a life where a man would take care of me. They just never considered what would happen if that man decided taking care of me meant owning me. This is the moment where I felt something break inside me. If you are listening to this and you have ever been the one who was told you weren't worth the same investment as someone else, the one whose dreams were dismissed because of your gender or who you were supposed to become, I need you to know you are not alone. Please hit that like button right now to show we are stronger than their low expectations. And in the comments, I want you to simply write, "I am worthy." Let's create a wall of support for everyone who has ever gotten the $15,000 treatment while their brothers got $150,000.
After that phone call from Michael, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop, neutral territory, public. He couldn't ambush me somewhere private. Emma was at a friend's house for a playdate, so I drove to the Starbucks on Miller Road and waited. Michael showed up 10 minutes late, looking older than I remembered. He was 39 now, stress lines around his eyes, his hair starting to gray at the temples. He sat down across from me without ordering anything. "Thanks for meeting me," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "I almost didn't. What do you want, Michael?" He took a breath. "Mom and Dad are in trouble, financial trouble, bad trouble. I thought you should know." "And you're telling me this, why?" "Because they're going to lose their house. They're going to lose everything, and they need help." I stared at him. "They need help?" "Yes, look, I know what happened at Christmas 2 years ago was messed up. I know you're angry, but they're still our parents. They made a mistake. They threw me and their 7-year-old granddaughter out on Christmas Eve because I wouldn't go back to my abuser. That's not a mistake, Michael. That's a choice." "I know, but no, you don't get to but this. Where were you that night? Where were you when they told Emma she wasn't welcome in their house?" He shifted uncomfortably. "I should have said something. I know that now. I was wrong. But Sarah, this is serious. They're about to be homeless. They're elderly. They need family right now." "They have family. They have 3 sons. They have daughters-in-law. They have grandchildren who apparently still matter to them. Why are you here?" Michael looked down at his hands. "Because we can't help them. Not financially. Ryan just went through a divorce himself. He's paying child support and alimony. David lost his job last year and is barely keeping his head above water, and he paused. "My company downsized. I was laid off 6 months ago. I'm working contract jobs. My wife went back to work. We're selling the house and moving to a smaller place. None of us can help them." "So you came to me. You bought a house. You're doing well. I thought maybe..." "You thought maybe I'd forget that they threw me out for leaving my abuser. You thought maybe I'd write them a check because I'm doing okay now." "They're desperate, Sarah. Dad made some bad investments. Mom's medical bills from her surgery last year wiped out their savings. They're 2 months behind on their mortgage. The bank is foreclosing." I felt nothing.
No sympathy, no sadness, nothing. That's terrible. I hope they figure it out. Sarah, come on, they're your parents. No, Michael, they stopped being my parents on Christmas Eve 2 years ago when they chose my abuser over me and their 7-year-old granddaughter. You want to know what I've been doing for the past 2 years? I've been working my ass off. I got certified in medical coding while working 2 jobs and raising Emma alone. I got promoted twice. I bought a house. I built a life from absolutely nothing because the people who were supposed to help me threw me away like garbage. I know you went through a lot. You don't know anything, I said, my voice rising. Other customers were looking at us now. You don't know what it's like to have your 7-year-old daughter cry herself to sleep on Christmas Eve because her grandparents kicked her out. You don't know what it's like to choose between food and electricity because you're drowning in legal fees from a divorce you had to fight alone. You don't know what it's like to look your child in the face and promise her everything will be okay when you have no idea if that's true. Michael looked genuinely pained. You're right, I don't know. But Sarah, they're old. They're scared. Dad had a stroke 6 months ago. He's not the same. Mom's having memory issues. They need help, and we can't give it to them. You're the only one who can. Why me? Why not their beloved sons? Because you're the one who succeeded. We all failed. You're the one they underestimated who actually made something of herself. I laughed bitterly. You mean the dogger they gave $15,000 to while you got $150,000 because I was just going to get married anyway? That daughter? I didn't know about that until years later. When I found out, I was angry too. It wasn't fair. None of what they did to you was fair. But what are we supposed to do now? Let them go homeless out of spite? It's not spite, Michael. It's boundaries. It's consequences. They made their choice. They chose to cut me out of the family to protect their image and placate my abuser. Now they don't get to come back when it's convenient. That's not how this works. Michael stood up. Fine, I tried. I'll tell them you said no. Tell them whatever you want. I stopped caring what they think a long time ago. He left. I sat there for another 20 minutes, drinking coffee that had gone cold, processing what I'd just learned. My parents were broke, possibly going to lose their house. My father had a stroke. My mother was having memory issues. All of my brothers were struggling financially, and somehow I was the only one who was okay. I was the failure, the B student, the girl who wasn't worth investing in, and I was the only one who made it. That night, Emma asked me why I seemed upset. Just some adult stuff, baby. Nothing for you to worry about. Is it about Grandma and Grandpa? I looked at her, surprised. What makes you say that? I heard you on the phone yesterday. You said their name. Do they want to see us again? I sat down next to her on the couch. Would you want to see them if they did? Emma thought about it. I don't know. I remember them being mean to you. I remember them making me cry, but I also remember Grandma's cookies and Grandpa's jokes. I'm confused. That's okay, baby. Grown-up relationships are confusing. Sometimes people hurt us, and we have to decide if we want to let them try again or if we need to protect ourselves. What do you want to do, Mommy? I hugged her. I don't know yet, but whatever I decide, it'll be because it's best for us, for you and me, not for anyone else. Is that okay? That's okay. I trust you, Mommy. You always figure things out. Over the next 2 weeks, I thought about it constantly. I researched what happens when elderly parents lose their home, shelters, adult protective services, Medicaid nursing facilities. None of it was good. I thought about my father making that joke about an MRS degree, my mother explaining that girls don't need as much education, the envelope with $15,000, the Christmas Eve when they threw us out, every moment of dismissal and disappointment and conditional love. I thought about Emma, watching how I handled this, learning from my choices. What did I want to teach her? That family matters no matter what? Or that boundaries matter even when they're hard? That forgiveness is always required? or that forgiveness is earned. One night, I had a dream. I was 9 years old again, sitting on that dock at the lake house, holding my college fund envelope. But in the dream, adult me appeared and sat next to child me. "It's going to be hard," adult me said. "They're going to dismiss you and underestimate you and make you feel small, but you're going to survive it. You're going to become someone amazing, and someday they're going to need you, and you're going to have to decide who you want to be." I woke up knowing what I had to do, not for them, for me, for Emma, for the 9-year-old girl sitting on that dock who deserved better. I called Michael. "I'm not giving them money," I said, "but I have a proposal. I'll pay off their mortgage directly to the bank. The house will be transferred to my name. They can live there rent-free for as long as they need, but there are conditions." "What conditions?" "First, they have to apologize, a real apology, to me and to Emma, in person. Acknowledge what they did and take responsibility for it. Second, they need to go to family therapy, with me, facilitated by a professional. We work through this properly or we don't work through it at all. Third, they need to understand that this doesn't mean everything is magically fixed. Emma and I are not coming to family dinners like nothing happened. We're not pretending the past 2 years didn't exist. They hurt us, and they need to own that." Michael was quiet for a long moment. "They're not going to like those conditions." "I don't care if they like them. Those are my terms. Take it or leave it. You have 48 hours to give me an answer." "Sarah, wait. What made you change your mind?" "I didn't change my mind about what they did. I changed my mind about who I want to be. There's a difference." 2 days later, Michael called back. They agreed, all 3 conditions. Dad wasn't happy about it, but Mom convinced him. "When do you want to meet?" "Saturday, 2 p.m., at their house. I want to see the mortgage documents first. I want to verify everything before I agree to anything." "Fair enough. Thank you, Sarah. Really, you're saving them." "I'm not saving them, Michael. I'm making sure a 10-year-old girl doesn't watch her mother become as cruel as the people who hurt her. There's a difference." That Saturday, I drove to my parents' house for the first time in 2 years. Emma stayed with her friend. I wasn't ready to bring her into this yet. The house looked exactly the same from the outside. Same white siding, same red door, same flower beds my mother obsessively maintained. But something felt different. Smaller, maybe. Less intimidating. I knocked instead of using my key. Michael answered. "Come in."
The inside looked worse. Furniture was shabby, paint was peeling in places, the carpet was stained. They had clearly been struggling for a while. My parents sat in the living room, my father in his recliner, my mother on the couch. My father looked frail. One side of his face slightly drooped from the stroke. My mother looked older, her hair completely gray now, her hands shaking slightly. They both looked at me with expressions I couldn't quite read. Shame? Fear? Pride? Maybe all 3. "Sarah," my mother said, "thank you for coming." I sat in the chair across from them, keeping distance. "Michael said you agreed to my conditions." "We did," my father said. His speech was slightly slurred, another effect of the stroke. "But I want you to know this doesn't mean we were wrong. We were trying to protect you, to make you see sense." I stood up immediately. "Okay, I'm leaving." "Wait," my mother said. "Thomas, stop, please." She looked at me, tears in her eyes. "Don't go. He doesn't mean that. He's just proud. He doesn't know how to admit when he's wrong, but I do. Sarah, I know what we did was wrong. I know we hurt you and Emma. I know we chose protecting our image and our relationship with David over protecting you, and I am so, so sorry." I sat back down slowly. "Keep going." "We thought we were doing the right thing. We thought marriage was sacred and divorce was shameful. We thought if we pushed you hard enough, you'd go back to David and work it out. We didn't believe you about the abuse. We thought you were exaggerating to win the custody battle. We were wrong. About all of it. Mom, he shoved me into a wall in front of Emma. You knew that. I told you that." "I know,"
she whispered, "and I chose not to believe you. I chose to believe David's version instead, because believing you meant admitting that I'd pushed you to marry someone dangerous. It meant admitting that I'd valued your marriage more than your safety. I couldn't face that, so I decided you were lying. That's unforgivable, Sarah. I know that." My father cleared his throat. "Linda, that's enough." "No, Thomas, it's not enough," my mother said, her voice stronger. "We need to tell her all of it. We need to own all of it." She looked at me. "Your father called David after we kicked you out. He told David where you were working. He told him your schedule. He was trying to help David win the custody battle. He was actively working against you." I felt like I'd been punched. "What?" My father's face was red. "I was trying to help the family stay together. I thought if David could talk to you without lawyers involved, you'd see reason. He showed up at my work 3 times. Security had to escort him out. I almost lost my job. I had to get a restraining order extended to my workplace. That was you? You told him where I was?" "I didn't think he'd make a scene. I thought he'd talk to you like an adult. He screamed at me in front of patients. He called me names I won't repeat. The police were called. He was arrested. And you caused that?" My father looked away. "I made a mistake." "You made a choice," I corrected. "You chose to help my abuser stalk me at work. You actively put me in danger. Do you understand that?" Silence. Finally, my father spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I understand that now. The stroke gave me a lot of time to think, to realize what I'd done, to see what I'd become. Sarah, I'm sorry, for all of it, for the college fund, for dismissing your dreams, for choosing David over you, for throwing you out on Christmas Eve, for trying to help him find you, for every single thing I did that told you that you weren't as valuable as your brothers. You deserved better from me. You deserved better from both of us." I sat there, tears running down my face. These were the words I'd been waiting to hear my entire life, but hearing them now, after everything, they felt hollow, too late, offered only because they needed something from me. Do you know what it was like, being thrown out on Christmas Eve with my daughter, driving home with no coats in December, watching Emma cry herself to sleep because her grandparents didn't want her anymore? Do you have any idea what you did to her? My mother was sobbing now. "No, we don't, but we want to understand. We want to make it right." "You can't make it right," I said. "You can't undo the trauma. You can't give Emma back her sense of security. You can't give me back the 2 years I spent thinking I was completely alone in the world. The best you can do is acknowledge it and work to be better. That's it." "We'll do the therapy," Father said. "All of it, whatever you want. Just please don't let us lose our home. We have nowhere to go." I pulled out the mortgage documents Michael had sent me. I spoke to the bank. "You owe $178,000. I'm prepared to pay it off completely. The house will be transferred to my name. You can live here for free. But if you violate any of my conditions, if you miss a single therapy session, if you ever disrespect me or Emma again, I will evict you legally, through the courts. Do you understand?" They both nodded. "We understand." "I need you to say it. I need you to acknowledge that you have no power here, that I'm in control now, that you need me, not the other way around." My father's jaw tightened, his pride clearly wounded, but he said it. "We understand. You're in control. We need you." I called the bank from their living room and arranged the payoff. $178,000 transferred from my savings, the money I'd worked 80-hour weeks to save, the money I'd earned through certification programs and promotions and sacrifice, the money that represented every single thing they said I couldn't do. It's done. The house is mine. You can stay, but therapy starts next week. I've already found a therapist who specializes in family trauma and reconciliation, Dr. Patricia Hendricks. She has a session available Thursday at 4 p.m. All 3 of us will be there.
What about Emma? My mother asked hopefully. When do we get to see Emma? When I decide you're safe for her to be around. When the therapist agrees. When Emma decides she wants to see you. She's 10 years old now. She gets a say in this. And right now, she's not sure she wants grandparents who hurt her mom. My mother's face crumpled. We threw away 2 years with our granddaughter. You did, I agreed, and you might never get that back. But if you do the work, if you really change, maybe you can be part of her life going forward. Maybe. I stood to leave. My mother grabbed my hand. Sarah, I know it doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know something. When we got that envelope from the bank, when we realized we were going to lose this house, your father said maybe we should call you. And I said no. I said we didn't deserve your help after what we did. I said we should face the consequences of our choices. But then Michael called you anyway. And when you said you'd help, I cried for 3 days straight. Why are you telling me this? Because I want you to know that I know we don't deserve this. I know you're being more generous than we have any right to expect, and I know that makes you a better person than either of us could ever be. I pulled my hand away gently. I'm not doing this to be better than you. I'm doing this because I have a daughter who's watching how I handle people who hurt me, and I want her to learn that boundaries and compassion aren't mutually exclusive, that you can protect yourself and still choose mercy, that being strong doesn't mean being cruel. I walked to the door. Therapy, Thursday, 4 p.m. Don't be late. Therapy was brutal. Dr. Hendricks was a woman in her 60s with kind eyes and zero tolerance for bullshit. In our first session, she laid out the ground rules. This is a space for honesty. If you lie, if you deflect, if you blame, I'll call it out. We're here to rebuild trust, and trust is built on truth. Everyone understand? We all nodded. Over the next 6 months, we met every Thursday. My parents had to recount in detail every decision they made that hurt me: the college fund disparity, the dismissal of my dreams, the favoritism toward my brothers, the pressure to marry David, the refusal to believe me about the abuse, the Christmas Eve eviction, the phone calls to David telling him where to find me. Every session, Dr. Hendricks would ask me how each story made me feel, and I had to be honest. It made me feel worthless. It made me feel like I was only valuable if I was making you look good. It made me feel like you loved the idea of me more than you loved the actual me. My father struggled with this. His pride kept getting in the way. I did what I thought was best, was his constant refrain. Your intent doesn't erase the impact, Dr. Hendricks would say. You thought you were helping. You were actually harming. Those two things can both be true. My mother was more receptive, more willing to sit with her failures. I was jealous of you, she admitted in session 4. You were smart and ambitious, and you didn't need me the way I needed you to need me, so I tried to make you smaller. I tried to convince you that you needed a man to complete you, because that's what I believed about myself. I projected my limitations onto you, and I'm so sorry. In session 7, Dr. Hendricks asked the question I'd been dreading. Sarah, what do you need from your parents to move forward? I thought for a long time. I need to know that they see me, actually see me, not as a daughter who disappointed them or a woman who made bad choices, but as a person who survived things they can't imagine and came out stronger. I need them to respect me, not just apologize to me. My father spoke up, his voice still slightly slurred. I see you, Sarah. I see that you worked 2 jobs while getting certified. I see that you fought for custody alone. I see that you bought a house and raised Emma and built a life from nothing. I see that you're stronger than I ever gave you credit for. And I see that you're better than me, better than I taught you to be. You became extraordinary despite me, not because of me. I started crying. Not sad crying, release crying. Thank you. That's what I needed.
Dr. Hendricks nodded. That's progress, real progress. In session 10, Dr. Hendricks brought Emma in. We'd prepared her for weeks, explaining what therapy was, what we were trying to do, giving her the choice to participate or not. She chose to come. Emma sat between me and my parents, looking tiny in the big office chair. Dr. Hendricks spoke gently. Emma, do you know why we're all here? Because Grandma and Grandpa hurt my mom and me, and we're trying to fix it. That's right. Do you want to tell them how you felt when they asked you to leave on Christmas Eve? Emma looked at my parents. She was 10 now, more confident than she'd been at 7, but still a child carrying weight no child should carry. I felt like I did something wrong, like I was bad. I didn't understand why you didn't love me anymore.
My mother's face contorted with pain. Oh, Emma, sweetheart, we did love you. We do love you. We made a terrible mistake. Grown-ups always say they love you, but sometimes they don't act like it, Emma said with the brutal honesty of a child. Love is supposed to make you feel safe. You made me feel scared. My father wiped his eyes. You're right, Emma, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry we made you scared. I'm sorry we made you feel like you weren't loved. That was wrong. So wrong. Are you going to do it again? Emma asked. No, my mother said firmly. Never. We're learning to be better grandparents, better people, and if you'll give us a chance, we'll spend the rest of our lives proving that to you. Emma looked at me. What do you think, Mom? Should we give them a chance? I squeezed her hand. That's up to you, baby. I'll support whatever you decide. She looked at my parents for a long moment. Then she said, Okay, but if you're mean to my mom again, I won't forgive you. She's the best person I know, and if you can't see that, then you don't deserve to be in our lives. My father nodded. That's fair. That's more than fair. After that session, Dr. Hendricks pulled me aside. Sarah, I want you to know that what you're doing is incredibly brave, but I also want to make sure you're not sacrificing your healing for theirs. Are you doing this because you want to, or because you feel obligated? Honestly, both, I said. I want Emma to have grandparents if they can be good ones. I want to model forgiveness without being a doormat, but I also want them to understand what they lost, what they almost lost forever. I want them to feel the weight of their choices. That's healthy, Dr. Hendricks said, as long as you're not looking for them to fill needs they've never been able to fill. They're showing up, they're doing the work, but they're still the same people who hurt you, healed, hopefully, better, possibly, but fundamentally the same. I know, I said. I'm not expecting them to suddenly be the parents I needed when I was 9. I'm just hoping they can be decent grandparents to Emma and respectful parents to me. That's the bar now. By session 15, we'd established new boundaries. Family dinners once a month, supervised, phone calls twice a week, but only if my parents respected my time and Emma's schedule, holidays celebrated separately until Emma felt comfortable with joint celebrations, no surprise visits, no guilt trips, no comments about David or the divorce or my choices. My parents had to earn back each piece of access to our lives, and slowly, painfully, they did. They showed up to every therapy session. They did the homework Dr. Hendricks assigned. They read books about emotional abuse and family trauma. They wrote letters of apology to Emma that made her cry. They changed. Not completely, not perfectly. My father still sometimes slipped into old patterns of dismissiveness. My mother still sometimes tried to manipulate through guilt. But when it happened, I called it out, immediately, firmly. That's not acceptable. We've talked about this. Do better or this ends. And they would apologize, actually apologize, and do better. One day, about 8 months into therapy, my father asked if he could speak to me alone after a session. Dr. Hendricks nodded her approval, and my parents and I stayed behind while Emma went to the waiting room. What is it, Dad? I need to tell you something about the college fund. I tensed. What about it?
Michael told you that he got $150,000 and you got $15,000. That's true. But what he doesn't know is that I had another $135,000 set aside for you. Your mother and I fought about it constantly. She wanted to give it to you. I refused. I said girls don't need expensive educations, but the money existed. We had it. I just wouldn't give it to you. I felt like I'd been punched. You're telling me you had the money and chose not to give it to me? Yes, and 3 years ago, right before we threw you out on Christmas Eve, I gave that $135,000 to David. He said he needed it for the custody battle. He said he needed good lawyers to fight you for Emma. I gave your college fund to your abuser to use against you in court. The room spun. My mother was crying. I didn't know he did that until last month. He finally told me. I wanted you to hear it from him, not from me or Michael. I stood up, my hands shaking. You gave my college fund to David to use against me in court? I did, Sarah. I thought I was helping the family. I thought I was protecting the marriage. I was wrong. Sarah, I was so wrong. And I need you to know that because I need you to understand the full extent of what I did to you. I didn't just dismiss you. I actively worked to destroy you, and you survived anyway. You thrived anyway, and that makes you stronger than I could ever be. I walked out of the office. I got in my car. I drove home. I sat in my driveway for 20 minutes just breathing. Emma came out of the house. Mom, are you okay? Grandma called. She said Grandpa told you something bad. I looked at my daughter, this amazing, resilient, brilliant little girl who had survived so much. Yeah, he did, but I'm going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Are we still going to see them? I don't know yet, baby. I need to think. That night, after Emma went to bed, I did the math. $135,000 given to David 3 years ago. David, who used it to drag out our divorce, to hire expensive lawyers, to fight me for custody, to try to bankrupt me into submission. My own father had funded my destruction. I called Michael. Did you know about the money Dad gave to David? No, I just found out last week. He called me crying, saying he needed to confess to you. Sarah, I'm so sorry. If I'd known, it doesn't matter. What's done is done. But Michael, I need you to understand something. I helped Mom and Dad because I wanted to teach Emma about mercy, but mercy has limits. I need time to decide if I can keep doing this. I understand. Whatever you decide, I support you. I hung up and sat in the dark, thinking about the 9-year-old me who got $15,000 and was told it was enough, the college fund that existed but was withheld, the money that eventually funded my destruction. And I realized something. My father hadn't just underestimated me, he actively tried to make his low estimation of me come true, and he failed. I succeeded anyway, built a life anyway, became someone anyway. That was the real victory. Not that he finally admitted he was wrong, but that he was wrong and I proved it.
I didn't contact my parents for 3 weeks. I needed space to process what my father had told me. Dr. Hendricks called me twice to check in. This is a major setback in trust. You have every right to end the relationship. Whatever you decide, I support. But then something happened that changed everything. I got a call from David's lawyer. My ex-husband, who had disappeared from our lives 2 years earlier, was petitioning the court for custody modification. He wanted shared custody of Emma, 50-50. On what grounds? I asked. He's been absent for 2 years. He never paid child support. He stopped showing up for supervised visits. He's claiming he's completed all required programs: anger management, parenting classes, substance abuse treatment. He's employed now. He has stable housing, and he says he has new evidence that the original custody arrangement was based on false allegations. My blood ran cold. What new evidence? He submitted affidavits from your family members stating that you were unstable during the divorce, that you were prone to exaggeration, that they questioned the validity of your abuse claims. What family members? Your parents, Thomas and Linda.
They signed statements 3 months ago, before you started helping them financially. David's lawyer is arguing that even your own parents didn't believe you, which casts doubt on the abuse allegations. I hung up and immediately called Michael. Did you know about this? About what? About Mom and Dad giving statements to David's lawyer saying I lied about the abuse. Silence. Then, oh my God, Sarah, no, I didn't know. When did this happen? 3 months ago, right before they were about to lose the house, right before you called me for help. I drove to my parents' house. I didn't call first. I just showed up, walked in using the key I still had, and found them both in the living room watching TV. They looked up, startled. Sarah, we didn't know you were coming. You gave statements to David's lawyer, I said. You signed affidavits saying I was unstable, that I lied about the abuse, and now he's using those statements to try to get custody of Emma. My mother's face went pale. Sarah, we didn't know he was going to do that. He called us, said he just needed character references for a job application. We didn't realize. You signed legal documents. You didn't read them? You didn't question why David needed character references from his ex-wife's parents? My father tried to stand but couldn't quite manage it. We were desperate. He said he'd help us with the mortgage if we signed. We didn't think it would hurt you. We thought the custody case was over. The custody case is never over when you have an abusive ex-husband. He's trying to get 50-50 custody, Dad. That means Emma would have to spend half her time with a man who shoved me into walls, who screamed at me in front of her, who traumatized her so badly she needed therapy. And you gave him ammunition to make that happen. We'll recant, my mother said desperately. We'll call his lawyer. We'll tell them we were coerced. We'll fix this. You can't fix this, I said. Those affidavits are part of the court record now. The damage is done, and you did it. Not because you believed David, not because you thought he deserved custody, because he offered you money. You sold your granddaughter's safety for mortgage help. My father started crying, actually sobbing. Sarah, please, we didn't understand. We weren't thinking. We were so scared of losing the house. And I was scared of my daughter ending up with her abuser, but I still helped you. I paid off your mortgage. I put your house in my name. I went to therapy with you. I brought Emma back into your lives. And the whole time, you knew you had signed those statements. You knew what you'd done, and you said nothing. We were afraid you'd stop helping us if you knew. I laughed, a bitter sound. You're right. I would have, because this crosses a line even I can't forgive. You didn't just hurt me, you put Emma in danger, my 10-year-old daughter who has done nothing wrong, who you supposedly love. You were willing to risk her safety for money. What are you going to do? My father asked. I'm going to fight David's petition. I'm going to win, because unlike you, I actually protect my daughter. And then I'm going to evict you from this house. You have 60 days. Find somewhere else to live. Sarah, no, please, my mother begged. We're sorry. We'll do anything. You had chances. So many chances. The Christmas Eve eviction, giving David my college fund, choosing him over me repeatedly. And every single time, I gave you another opportunity to do better. But this is the line. I pulled out my phone and called my lawyer. Maggie, I need to start eviction proceedings. Yes, immediately. They violated the terms of our agreement. My parents sat there, the weight of their choices finally crushing them. My mother was rocking back and forth. My father was still crying. You were supposed to be different. You were supposed to be the parents who protected me. Instead, you've spent my entire life trying to destroy me. And every single time, I survived. I succeeded. I became someone because of you. But this is it. This is the last time you get to hurt me or my daughter.
I walked to the door. My mother called after me. Sarah, wait. What about forgiveness? What about mercy? You said you wanted to teach Emma about compassion. I turned back. I also want to teach her about boundaries, about knowing when someone has proven they'll never change, about protecting herself even when it's hard. You want to know what mercy looks like? Mercy is giving you 60 days instead of 30. Mercy is not pressing charges for fraud regarding those affidavits. Mercy is not telling your sons exactly what you did. That's all the mercy you're getting from me. The custody hearing was 4 weeks later. I brought everything: the original restraining order, police reports from David's workplace harassment, Dr. Morrison's notes from Emma's therapy documenting the trauma, my own medical records from the times David hurt me, and I brought Margaret, my lawyer, who cross-examined David's attorney about the affidavits. These statements from the grandparents, when were they obtained? 3 months ago. And where are the grandparents now? Why aren't they here to testify? They weren't available. Or, Margaret said, they recanted their statements when they realized they were obtained under false pretenses. Your Honor, I'd like to submit sworn affidavits from Thomas and Linda, obtained yesterday, stating that they were coerced into signing the original statements and that they fully support my client's custody arrangement. The judge reviewed the new affidavits. My parents, to their credit, had done this much. They had admitted they were wrong, in writing, for the court. Mr. David, the judge said, I'm not impressed with your petition. You've been absent from your daughter's life for 2 years. You've provided no child support, and the new evidence you've presented has been contradicted by the very people who provided it. Petition denied. The current custody arrangement stands. David's face went red. He stood up, shouting, "This is bullshit! She poisoned them against me! She's poisoning my daughter!" Mr. David, sit down or you'll be held in contempt, the judge warned. One more outburst and I'll extend the restraining order another 5 years. He sat down, seething. I felt Emma squeeze my hand. She had insisted on coming to the hearing, wanting to tell the judge herself that she didn't want to live with her father. The judge had allowed it, in chambers with just the attorneys present. I don't know what Emma said, but when she came out, the judge looked at David with unconcealed disgust. We won. Completely, decisively. Emma would stay with me full-time. David's supervised visitation would continue, but only if he completed another round of anger management and only if Emma consented. She didn't. David left the courthouse looking murderous. I held Emma close as we walked to the car. Mom, can I ask you something? Anything, baby. Are you still going to make Grandma and Grandpa leave their house? I looked at her. Do you want me to? She thought about it. I don't know. They did something really bad. They helped Dad try to take me away from you. But then they fixed it. They told the truth to the judge. Doesn't that count for something? It counts for something, I admitted. But baby, this is hard, because they've hurt us so many times. At some point, I have to protect us, even from people we love. I know, Emma said, and I trust you. Whatever you decide is okay. But Mom, can I tell you what I think? Of course. I think people can change if they really want to. Grandma and Grandpa were really mean to us, but maybe they're finally learning. Maybe they're finally seeing that you're amazing and I'm lucky to have you. Maybe this was their last chance to prove they get it. I hugged her. When did you get so wise? She said, smiling at me. That night, I called my parents. I got your affidavits, the ones you submitted to the court. Did they help? My mother asked. Yes, David's petition was denied. Emma stays with me. Thank God, she breathed. Sarah, I know we don't deserve anything from you, but I need you to know that we told the truth in those affidavits because it was the right thing to do, not because we wanted something from you. We knew you were probably going to evict us anyway. We did it because Emma deserves to be protected, and because we finally understand what we should have understood all along. You're a good mother, the best mother, and we were wrong about everything. I was quiet for a long time. Then I said, I'm not going to evict you. You're not? No, but the terms are changing. You're going to pay rent now, fair market rent for a house this size in this neighborhood. You can afford it now that you don't have a mortgage. And you're going to continue therapy. Not with me, I'm done with joint sessions, but you'll go individually, weekly, and send me proof of attendance. And if you ever put Emma in danger again, I won't give you 60 days, I'll give you 24 hours. Are we clear? We're clear, my father said. Sarah, thank you. Thank you for giving us one more chance. I'm not doing it for you, I said. I'm doing it for Emma. She asked me to. She believes people can change. I'm not sure I do, but I'm willing to let you try to prove me wrong. I hung up and sat on my porch, looking at my house, my yard, my life. 3 years ago, I was thrown out on Christmas Eve with nothing. Now I owned 2 houses, had a career I loved, had a daughter who was thriving, and had the power to show mercy to people who had shown me none. That was the victory. Not revenge, not making them suffer, but choosing, from a position of strength, to be better than they ever were. This right here, this is the moment that makes your blood boil. We have all met people like my parents, people who claim they love you but sell you out the moment it's convenient, people who apologize only when they need something. It is the ultimate form of manipulation. If you have ever had to deal with family members who put their comfort above your safety, I need you to hit that like button right now. Let's show them that we see through their lies. And in the comments, I want you to type one word: boundaries. Let's demand them. 1 year after the custody hearing, Emma turned 11. She wanted a birthday party at our house with friends from school, and she asked if she could invite Grandma and Grandpa. "Are you sure?" I asked. "After everything?" "I'm sure," she said. "They've been better, Mom. They call and ask about my school, they send me cards on holidays, they remember things I tell them. I think they're really trying." So I invited them. They came to Emma's party with appropriate gifts, nothing extravagant, nothing guilt-inducing. They were polite to my friends, they helped clean up afterward, they asked permission before hugging Emma. They had learned, finally, what boundaries looked like. After the party, my mother asked if she could speak to me privately. We sat on the back porch while Emma played with her friends in the yard. "I've been going to therapy every week like you asked," my mother said. "My therapist has helped me understand something. I was never supposed to be a mother." I looked at her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I had children because that's what women did in my generation, but I didn't have the capacity for it. I was too broken, too narcissistic, too focused on my own needs, and instead of working on myself, I had 4 children and damaged all of you in different ways. Your brothers by making them entitled, you by making you feel worthless." "Mom, no, let me finish. I need to say this. You deserved a mother who saw your brilliance and nurtured it, who protected you from predators like David, who celebrated your success instead of feeling threatened by it. You deserved so much better than me, and I can't give you back the childhood you should have had, but I can stop making excuses. I can admit that I failed you, not because I didn't know better, but because I chose not to do better." She pulled out an envelope. "This is a check for $135,000, the amount your father gave to David. I've been saving every penny from my part-time job. It took me a year, but I want you to have it, not because it erases what we did, but because you deserve to have what was always yours." I looked at the check, $135,000, my college fund, finally given to me at 41 instead of 21. 20 years too late to change my path, but meaningful nonetheless. "I don't need this money, Mom. I'm doing fine now." "I know. That's why I want you to have it, because you don't need it, because you succeeded without it, because you proved that you were always worth investing in, and we were just too blind to see it. Take it, put it in a college fund for